Hi everybody, my name is Gunnar Streitenthal, and my presentation is over Star Wars, The Rule of Two, which is a teaching or philosophy that the Sith ended up implementing long before Episode 1 ever happens. And I'll and it's going to go into detail exactly how this all works and how it began. So who exactly are the Sith? Sith are fallen Jedi, and they're very similar in the fact that they both use the Force, they both have codes that they follow, and they both have like a hierarchy or an order. It's just the Sith are fallen Jedi who use the dark side of the Force and were discarded a long time or exiled a long time ago. So the Jedi and Sith codes, here's a brief look at them. As you can see, the Sith pretty much contradict everything that the Jedi say, which is pretty much what the Sith should do. And but it's the ending that I really want to focus on because both of them pretty much end the same way. Because there is no death, there is the Force. It's talking about beating death through the Force or living on through the Force. And then the Force shall be set me free. The Sith are talking about having their shackles removed and being free from all restrictions in life. So here's a brief look at the hierarchy of the Force. I mean, of the Force of the Sith. Dark Lord of the Sith, he's the top dog. So the Sith Lords, equivalent of the Jedi Masters, and then there's the Sith Masters and Sith Princes. So why was change needed at the time? Well, by nature, the Sith are always power hungry and they're always striving to be at the top. And whenever the Sith would invade the Republic, which would happen like every 50, 100 years, they would fail because the Sith would always fall apart from within. It would never last because they were always trying to out best each other so they can be better than everybody else. So what exactly is the rule of two? Well, rule of two is that there should be no more, no less. One to embody the power, the other to crave it. This was created by a guy named Darth Revan. This is about 1,000 years before the Battle of Yavin. So, why the rule of two? Why this philosophy? Well, the Sith by nature, like I said, they always want to be the top and they always want to be the leader. And the rule of two really plays on the strengths of the Sith. Whereas the Jedi, they're always working together and they have their public army and they're always cooperative. So, but the Sith's strengths are that they don't have the same restrictions as the Jedi. They're free to, they don't have anybody to protect, so everybody is expendable to them. So that they can use corrupt leaders or bandits or unworld bosses to further their causes and do what needs to be done. Now, Darth Bane he was originally part of the Brotherhood of Darkness, which at the time was what the Sith Order was called. And he noticed a cycle that the Sith were on, and he left to go do research. And he found these old holocrons or data records that were made by a guy named Darth Revan. Now he researched these holocrons and he received insight from Revan, who was long dead, about the rule of two. And he goes back and he decides to start this right away, and he destroys all the other Sith, and he starts over, takes his apprentice, and starts the rule of two. Now Revan, the guy who taught Bane through holocrons, was a very influential person when he was alive because he played both sides of the Force. He was a Jedi and a Sith. He went through teachings of the Sith, and but he was originally a Jedi, and he would go back and forth all the time. But eventually, he ended up leaving both sides, and he started his own faction. And both the Sith and the Jedi ended up joining together to defeat him because some of his teachings were very controversial. So what he did was he ended up putting all of his teachings in holocrons, and he scattered them all throughout the galaxy so that people who wanted to know the truth about how the Sith should operate would be able to find them and begin start the Sith about how they really should be. So what made Revan so special? Well, like I said, he understood the dark side of the Force. He knew that it was powerful, but he didn't use it for power. He used it for knowledge. He was focused on trying to find a balance in the Force. And He was renowned throughout the galaxy as someone who was in the middle. Now, the early Sith, this is what made Bane and Revan so special, is because they followed the teachings of the early Sith. Now, the early Sith didn't understand boundaries. They had unlimited power, but that came at a cost. And that cost was that it deformed their bodies, it made them go insane, and they ended up dying at a very early age. And Bane and Revan knew this, and they used caution, but they were still going down a path that was not very good. So, how does the Rule 2 work? There's a master and an apprentice. One to harness power, which is the master, and then one to crave it, that's the apprentice. And the reason this works is because it makes it so that the apprentice learns from the master, but once the master reaches his limit of usefulness to the apprentice, the apprentice kills the master and becomes the new master, takes his own apprentice. Now, the master is the puppet master. He never shows his face. He's always in the background, and the apprentice, he is the face of the dark side. He carries out the master's plans and enforces what needs to be done. So, in summary, Rule 2 ends the cycle that the Sith were in. It was created by Darth Bane and Darth Revan, and it was quite successful because it nearly destroyed the Jedi Order and almost brought an end to the Jedi that we saw in the movies. And that's my presentation. Thank you very much.